2021. Now, 2.7%, this is the number of ECD and primary schools decreased decreased between 2021 and 2022, even as the number of pupils increased. 7.6% matters fuel. Volume of petroleum products imported decreased by 7.6%. So on pages 6 and 7, you'll learn more about the 2023 economic survey, and the number of new jobs created last year dropped by 108,300 compared to the previous year. Fresh data from the National Statistics Office shows that even as Kenya's economy grew by a slow of 4.8% in 2022, as a severe drought hurt agricultural output. Now, why plan to block Uhuru's pension is a tall order. Page 5. National Assembly will require supermajority to stop monthly pension and other benefits enjoyed by former presidents. Below it, one key thing that we as journalists will always be proud to give you matters plus Freedom Day. Media under siege, how the law is being used to gag journalists. Journalists across the globe are grappling with a new threat. The law is being weaponized to criminalize media practice to silence them, according to a study by Columbia University. I'll be getting into some of the data there on page 3. But first, matters classrooms, matters education. Ruto unveils new funding model for universities. So listen to this. There will be no fee increase, President William Ruto assures parents and students. This is on the back page. You can take a look at that. That is definitely some good news for varsity students. Matters by relations, Kenyans to pay more to visit the U.S. as visa fees are increased. So the Department of State works hard to keep the costs associated with visas to a maximum. This is according to the U.S. Embassy in Kenya. Some of the visa applications have gone up by as much as 15,000 Kenyan shillings. Now, something else here. What I promised you to take a look at the data, rather the data, depends on your teacher of English. 363, the number of journalists who were jailed by the end of 2022. This is according to a survey by the Committee to Protect Journalists, and we'll be diving into that. We have very own right here at Cape Media, right here at TV47, journalists who have also come across, being gagged and assaults out there and in Kenya and across the globe. Records show that an alarming number of journalists are being imprisoned globally. That shouldn't really be happening. War against crimes, nearly 50% of respondents said they or the media organization were facing legal threats. Now to something else here, matters politics. Protests called of as Ruto and Raila allies reach compromise, ruling coalition and Azimio leaders also agree on creation of new offices but differ on how it should be done. We'll be discussing that this particular morning, the musical chairs of it. Let's dive into the Standard this morning. Real quick, Ruto University funding shocker. Listen to this: major win for your students from poor households as the president opens a path for free college education, with only deserving cases getting graduated state funding to pursue degree, diploma and certificate courses. You can take a look at that story on page 6. Matters economy, the economic blows that hit Kenyans hard, and it is still on the same as on the Daily Nation. Matters salary MC's threat on budgets. We did see them yesterday holding a meeting and giving an ultimatum to have also their wallets increased. And on the bottom, rather the top page of the Standard, right, as let's cross over to People Daily. Matters economy and matters education here. New funding model for varsities on page 3. Right, they do have it. Again, quite interesting news for varsity students. CS Kindiki speaks up on pay for journalists. We do really hope to see how that will play along on page 13. and Azimio calls of demos as talks set to reopen. Kenya Kwanza also bows to demand on having Canaan removed from bipartisan team. They do have that Deputy Chief Whip to know fate today. So yeah, Deputy Shule Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula will rule today whether nominated MP Sabina Chege will continue being the Deputy Minority Whip, and we'll be giving you all that later on. We'll be diving into the newspaper review a little bit later on with the guests this morning. But first, let me tell you what is happening in the country. And members of the Fourth Estate on Wednesday marked the Press Freedom Day, set annually on the 3rd of May to reflect on the plight of journalists across the globe. Stakeholders in the media industry, however, still regard the media freedom as under threat, pointing a finger at the Shakahola massacre incident, where journalists were barred to access the forest for first-hand information.
Press Freedom Day was proclaimed by the United Nations as an avenue to champion for the freedom of the press, pay tribute to all journalists who have lost their lives in the line of duty, and defend the media personalities from brutality to effectively achieve their objectives and in ensuring democracy is practiced. It is in the same forum that the media can load its strengths over the years in the influence of technology that masses can get verified and timely news either on Kenya's 220 radio stations, 135 TV stations, 100 publications, or either in the over 2,000 blogs. Media freedom has, however, been regarded under threat during an annual summit organized in Nairobi by key stakeholders in the media industry, pointing to an example of the Shakahola massacre incidents where journalists were barred from accessing the forest for first-hand information.
In the past year, scores of journalists have been injured while going about their duties. The violence has been from both state and non-state actors. On digital platforms, enemies of freedom of expression have been unrelenting in their attacks on journalists and media houses. Sources of threat to journalists are well known. We call for an immediate stop to these violations. Journalists must be allowed to exercise their constitutional right to do their professional work.
Interior CS Kithure Kindiki, however, recognized the challenging work carried out by the media, calling upon the employers to address their welfare.
Ile kazi mnafanya kama journalist ni kazi ngumu, kazi kubwa, kazi ya kujitolea. Nikaambia wadozi wenu pia wawafikirie waongeze.
In Embu County, journalists collaborated with police officers where they planted trees at the Eastern Region Police Headquarters at Mugoya, citing that the decision was made to advocate for a cordial working relationship between the security officers while increasing the forest cover.
Tunajua wakati mwingi wakati unapofanya kazi, huwa inasemekana polisi ndio labda wanazuiwa na habari kufanya ile kazi, lakini hapa mkoa wa Mashariki na kaunti ya Embu tumeendelea vizuri, tuna ushirikiano mzuri. Kila wakati tunapohitaji habari yote huwa tunapata.
We will try, and myself as a lawmaker, we will try as much as possible to ensure media freedom does not go backward.
The same script was witnessed in Uasin Gishu County as the press called on the government to provide free access to information to promote a good linkage with the general public. Paul Monio, TV 47.
And still on the same matters, journalists in Kenya have decried lack of press freedom as the number of journalists being harassed by both state and non-state actors continues to increase without any tangible action being taken. The media, which plays a critical role as a watchdog, is facing threats in trying to inform the common mwananchi what he needs to know. As journalists mark yesterday as a special day, they have little to smile about since the future of journalism is facing a dark cloud. Pardon me. As Paul Karobi reports, media has found itself in the middle of accusation of misreporting.
The freedom of the press as envisaged under the Constitution of Kenya 2010 is seemingly fading by the day if the recent attacks and victimization of journalists in the line of duty is anything to go by. Among other circumstances, the lack of goodwill from the government, which has been seen to most often than not give thinly veiled threats to the Fourth Estate, puts journalists in difficult situation in trying to uncover the ill evils in the society, and even worse, leaves them exposed. Few weeks ago, journalists from different media houses were the receivers of the wrath of the police and protesters during the coverage of the anti-government protest in Nairobi and other cities, just like Jones Ng'ang'a, Cape Media's photojournalist.
Tia gasi ya kwanza venye ilirushwa ilinigonga mguu ya right. Ya pili venye ilirushwa ikanigonga mkono ya right. Ya tatu venye ilirushwa ilianza kucheza juu ya gari. Ikaanza kucheza juu, kuzunguka juu ya gari kwa sababu maybe hiyo pressure sijui venye tu zimeundwa.
This is not the only case study. Edwin Seseka from western part of the country, while covering by-elections in Webuye, he was roughed up by a group of politicians while trying to understand what was going on in the polling station.
Kwa nimetembelea kituo cha Webuye SK kuweza kuangalia tu vile kura zinaendelea, lakini nilipofika hapo kikundi kimoja cha wanasiasa kiliweza kunivamia kwa sababu walifikiria kwamba kuna masuala ambayo kulikuwa na kuhonga kwa pesa. So vile waliniona kama mimi na habari wakafikiri kwamba huenda nikatambua zile shughuli ambazo walikuwa wanafanya na nikaweza kuwa roughed up, lakini tools zangu hazikuharibika japo niliweza kuokolewa na maafisa wa polisi wa Webuye. Maafisa wanafanya kazi mzuri, lakini baadhi yao huwa wanafanya kazi na wao wanasiasa.
The duty of journalists is informing the public what is happening around the globe has become a major challenge, more so from the security administration. Timothy Wekesa, a newspaper writer, feels the system to deal with perpetrators is becoming weak.
Hakuna system nzuri ambayo inaweza ikakabiliana na hao watu. Unapata kushughulikia masuala ya watu ambao wameshambuliwa imeachiwa tu katika mikono ya mwandishi mwenyewe na labda mashirika ya kuwapigania kama Media Council na KCA, lakini unapokuja upande wa Media Council ni kama wanakuwa chini ya serikali zaidi. Sasa hawana mamlaka.
Blame game is now coming up among stakeholders and organizations tasked to safeguard the freedom of the press and safety.
When was the last time the Complaints Commission had a meeting and conversation with the stakeholders so that we can see how we can work together? There is none. We meet during the interviews, then it ends there.
The press reported hot air regarding arrest of the former Interior Secretary. Then why was there a follow-up to attempt to arrest him? It means, therefore, that the press played an important role in terms of alerting the country to the possibility of something that was about to happen.
At least 25 local and foreign journalists were attacked, harassed or arrested since the onset of the demonstrations in Kenya, according to the Media Council of Kenya. The media regulators since 27th March 2023, a total of 20 documented cases of attacks, harassment and arrest were registered, with the number rising to 25. According to the Committee to Protect Journalists CPJ, at least 4 journalists were killed in Africa in 2022, and as of December 1st, 2022, at least 56 journalists were imprisoned across Africa in connection with their work. Paul Kirobi, TV47.
And hopefully the country will embrace more on press freedom to all our scribes. Now listen to this story. A woman in Mwikali village in Butere constituency early Wednesday gave birth to 4 children at the St. Mary's Mumias Hospital. Now, as the reporter Ronnie Reagan reports, the mother could not hide her joy, even as the realities of Providence hit home hard.
30-year-old Mildred Orange today welcomed 4 beautiful angels. According to Mildred, she was surprised to give birth to 4 children because the ultrasound that was done during her pregnancy revealed that she was carrying 3.
Nilikuwa naenda clinic, nikaenda nikafanya ultrasound Butere District Hospital, na ultrasound ikatoa niko na watoto 3. So hiyo watoto 4 sikuwa najua.
She also says there is none in her family that has ever given birth to even twins.
Katika familia yetu hakuna twins ama hao watoto wanne hawako. Juu kwetu mimi ndio first born, halafu wengine wanafuata huko nyuma watoto 7.
However, such a blessings often come with its challenges. Mildred and her husband, who is a farmer, face the challenges of meeting their children's important needs.
Nikulimia tu watu vibarua kama ni upande wangu na napata cha siku. Kama ni mzee pia ni hivyo, ama kama amepata pikipiki ya mkondo anapeleka.
She is requesting the well-wishers to come to her rescue because alone she cannot afford.
Hao watoto venye wako hivi ni wengi. Juu kando na hawa, mimi nilipata bwanangu na watoto 3. Mimi nikamzalia mtoto mmoja, mwingine nilikuwa nimezaa kwetu, kwa hivyo hakukwao. So in total tuko na watoto 8. Na kama serikali haitanisaidia, akinitashinda. Nipende tu nisaidie, kama kuna muhisani anisaidie.
The St. Mary's Mumias Dr. Niyahubahwe confirmed that Mildred and her kids are doing well and are still under the care of doctors.
Sasa watoto walizaliwa wakiwa na hali ya afya nzuri, walikuwa na kilo ambayo ina range katika kilo 1.5 na kuendelea hadi kilo 1 na gharama 900.
Ronnie Reagan, TV 47.
Right now, the autopsy conducted on the 30 bodies of Shakahola victims revealed that 20 victims starved to death, 1 strangled, while 3 were suffocated to death. And as of Wednesday, another autopsy was conducted on 36 more bodies, and according to government chief pathologist Johansen Odor, all died of starvation, as Chichi Josephine now tells us.
Wednesday marked the 3rd day of the post-mortem exercise on the bodies of those exhumed from the expansive Shakahola forest as the probe into the alleged cultic activities facing controversial preacher Paul Mackenzie intensifies. Pathologists and other experts, who also include homicide detectives, DCI, forensic and government chemist experts, did 36 post-mortems, bringing the number of post-mortems conducted to 76.
We were able to do a total of 36 post-mortems. Of these, 16 were children, 19 were adults. The cause of death from all of these, majority we found that they died because of features of starvation, which were 23 of them. 4 of them we found that they had asphyxia. And remember, I told you asphyxia is someone who was denied oxygen prior to death. 7 of them we were unable to ascertain why they died because of the level of decomposition. Then we found a child who had head injury.
Chief Government Pathologist Johansen Odor, while giving the daily brief at the Malindi Sub-County Hospital mortuary, said they expect to conclude the post-mortems by Friday so that they resume exhumation of bodies that are still in shallow graves at the horrific Shakahola forest.
We believe that within the next 2 days we will be through with the post-mortem process, so that now if the weather is good for us, we can move back to the field and see whether we can get more and more graves.
While that was going on, rescuers rescued 1 male adult alive within the forest as the search and rescue of those said to have gone deeper into the forest to avoid being arrested continues. Meanwhile, Tana River Senator Danson Mungatana has been elected the chair of the Senate team to probe mysterious cult deaths in Shakahola, Kilifi County. Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kithure Kindiki is among top government officials expected to appear before the Senate Ad Hoc Committee investigating the proliferation of cultic religious organizations and the circumstances leading to the deaths of 110 people. The committee, that has 90 days to report back to the House, is set to start its public hearings next week, with a date with C.S. Kindiki, Attorney General Justin Muturi, and the Registrar of Societies in the Office of the Attorney General. Among the issues the committee will seek to establish from the officers include the registration status of the religious organizations and the mitigation measures of the current cares and regulations, if any, in use to control religious entities and their activities. Elsewhere, religious leaders have continued to condemn the happenings in Shakahola as they call on the government to hastily take action on those misleading the faithful through unacceptable ideologies.
Hiyo maneno ya mjungaji ya magenzi ni maneno ya muuaji, kwa sababu kama una strangle mtoto ama unaua wanawake, hiyo maneno ni ya serikali sasa, kwa sababu hakuna mahali Biblia inasema ulazimishe mtu kufunga. Hiyo ni maneno ambayo serikali inataka ichukulie mkazo.
Chichi Josephine, TV47.
I think for that, Chichi Josephine. Now let's talk politics. The Azimio coalition has called off its Thursday protest after the ruling Kenya Kwanza agreed to recuse last MP Aden Kenan from the bipartisan talks, replacing him with SACU Member of Parliament Didi Raso. The move came after Azimio principal Kalonzo Musyoka said the opposition was willing to stand down its demos if Kenan is recused from the talks. Kenya Kwanza, led by Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah, said it was willing to bend backwards for the interest of the country.
Sobriety and voice of reason after Tuesday's chaos prevailed on Wednesday after Kenya Kwanza and the Azimio coalition softened their hardline positions on the bipartisan talks. Both sides making concessions in a give-and-take affair. The Azimio coalition calling off its Thursday protests after Kenya Kwanza heeded to the opposition's demand to recuse Elders MP Aden Kenan from the talks, replacing him with SACU MP Didi Raso.
This evening, the leadership of the Azimio La Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party met and agreed to once more suspend the mass protests that we had earlier scheduled to continue tomorrow. The coalition took this step following the decision by the Kenya Kwanza to accede to one of our demands that informed the resumption of the mass action.
We are willing to bend backwards for the sake of progress of the country, national unity, and the stability of the nation. We have therefore consulted with Mheshimiwa Aden Kenan and the coalition's leadership, and the Honorable Aden Kenan has graciously agreed to recuse himself in the greater interest of this country and the exercise that is before the bipartisan committee.
Following the decision to call off the demos, the Azimio coalition has now summoned its 7-member delegation to the bipartisan talks on Thursday for fresh instructions on how they will engage their Kenya Kwanza counterparts. Azimio warning Kenya Kwanza they will not hesitate to return to the streets should there be lack of goodwill.
That we will not hesitate to resume the mass action at the slightest indication of lack of goodwill and honesty on the Kenya Kwanza side.
The man on the center of the storm, Elders MP Aden Kenan, saying Azimio has no reason to stall the talks.
I do not want Kenan to be used as an excuse in the name of the other many excuses that they're likely to generate in the next few days. So, and taking into account the national interest, as Professor Terodi once said, there comes a time when the country is more important than an individual.
How to make progress, because for 1 week we have been in a quagmire without knowing exactly where we are going. So tomorrow we are back so that we can start from where we stopped and the talks can proceed seamlessly without any interference.
With sobriety prevailing from the two sides on Wednesday, attention now shifts to the next phase of the talks, with the opening of the servers and restatement of IEBC commissioners being a sticking point. Apul Kamau, TV47 at Parliament Buildings.
All right, many thanks for that, Politricks. Now to matters devolution, ward representatives from across all the 47 county assemblies have threatened to shut down legislative and oversight duties in their respective counties in protest of the salary review by the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, SRC, in the year 2022, which saw the ward packs reduced and as the basic salary depreciating to 86,000, issuing a 14-day ultimatum. Over 2,000 reps have voted not to discuss or pass the county budget estimates, which is likely to affect the devolved unit operations. Morgan William with more.
Wednesday morning, elected and nominated members of county assemblies from all 47 counties converge at the Kenyatta International Convention Center. Top of the agenda for the over 2,000 ward reps being matters to do with their salaries. Chaotic scenes will be witnessed when the Principal Secretary, State Department for Labor Geoffrey Kaituko, wanted to address the MCAs who said they are angry and hungry. The MCAs ejected PS Kaituko from the venue. The bare minimum for the ward reps was an address from President William Ruto, or least Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. The meeting was moments later called to order. This time at the receiving end was the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, who were responsible for the downward review of salaries for public servants in the year 2022. In July 2022, SRC released reviewed figures of salaries that public servants will receive, among them MCAs, where the gross salary was adjusted to 144,375,000 and a basic salary of 86,625 per month. Also, the SRC abolished some benefits and allowances, including transport facilitation benefit in the form of a car grant and seating allowance for plenary sessions.
Sasa tumetumika, sasa tulipwe vibaya. Na unajua mimi siogopi kusema ya kwamba pesa za MCA zote zinakuliwa na Wajiku.
The ward reps threatened to boycott undertaking the responsibilities and sabotaging this year devolution conference if relevant bodies do not look into their welfare, proposing that their salaries be standardized as those of their counterparts at the county level. According to the figures by the SRC, the Speaker pockets a gross salary of 525,525 with a house allowance of 80,000, as the Deputy Speaker takes home a salary of 216,563 shillings with a house allowance of 60,000 shillings.
Na kama mshahara wa MCA huko kidogo, so kumaanisha kama inasemekana ni muhimu sisi turudi kwa bunge, then hata wananchi wasikuje basi kwa maboma zetu. Ile mshahara kidogo tuko nayo inatutosha sisi, wake zetu pamoja na watu wetu.
Tutashut all county assemblies, hakuna kwenda plenaries, hatutapitisha budget na hiyo mambo kabla na tutazuia the devolution conference, hatutakuwa pale.
Further, a resolution was reached with members concluding to withdraw their membership from the County Assemblies Forum, alleging that it has failed in its mandate in fighting for the welfare of the ward reps.
Tumefika mahali ikawa mambo ile wanafanya ni mambo yao. Tukafika mahali tukaona lazima tukusanyike pamoja ndiye tukue na another bond ile itakuwa inatetea waheshimiwa.
If county legislators make true of their threats, the 47 devolved units are looking into a crisis at the center of it, mwananchi possibly missing on important services. Morgan William, TV 47, KICC, Nairobi.
Right now to a conversation that will form the backbone tonight, this particular morning. Earlier on Wednesday, a standoff ensued at the National Assembly following Minority Leader Opiyo Wandayi insisting that former President Uhuru Kenyatta is the Jubilee Party leader and accusing the Speaker of frustrating the opposition by failing to communicate the decision to kick out Deputy Minority Whip Sabina Shege. While standing on a point of order, Elders MP Aden Kainan wondered why Wandayi had referred to retired President Uhuru Kenyatta as the leader of Jubilee, insisting that nominated MP Sabina Shege was the new party leader.
Mr. Speaker, I did write to you on the 6th of April communicating the decision of the minority coalition, the removal of Honorable Sabina Shege as the deputy minority whip. Oh, I hear she's party leader. I don't know about that. I know that the leader of the Jubilee party, which is a constituent party of Azimio, is none other than His Excellency Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. Mr. Speaker.
Order.
Mr. Speaker.
Order.
I don't want to be drawn into internal.
What is it? Order, honorable members. The statement by Honorable Wandai should not excite you unnecessarily. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Is it in order for the Honorable Wandai to mislead this House and Kenyans in general that Uhuru Kenyatta is the leader of Jubilee when we have just made a decision and our party leader is the Honorable Sabina Chege, Mr. Speaker? And is he in order, Mr. Speaker? Is he in order, Mr. Speaker?
Order, honorable members. Order.
Right, time for a short break. After this particular short break, we'll be diving right into what was happening yesterday at the National Assembly. The Jubilee, quote-unquote, coup jitters. Stick around for that.
Wakati mwingine kama weekend, mimi najiachilia.
Hata ukumbuki history.
Nikifika watu wangu wakinipokea na kupokeleka.
Umeset the mood.
Nimeset the mood. Naweza kupokeleka. Nikitumai kwamba mzima popote pale ulipo, nikikukaribisha katika kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi. Jina langu Elizabeth Mutuku. Katika kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi tunakupa nafasi kutangamana nao kila siku ya Alhamisi kuanzia saa 1:30 kuendelea siku nyingine. Tutapatana papa hapa umjue kiongozi mwingine.
Jiunge nasi toka hapa hadi ufuoni mwa bahari. Meli yetu itakapotua nanga kwa uhondo ribo ya riwaya hii mwisho wa kosa. Monica.
It's early morning in Maralal. Start your morning informed, educated, entertained, and above all, know your country. From the beautiful plains of Samburu County to the skyscrapers of Nairobi, Morning Cafe certainly got you covered. Indeed, a beautiful place to watch and certainly a moment of understanding and knowing your country. Indeed, to the remotest parts of every county.
Join me, Linda Alela, every weekday from 6 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
The diversity of Kenya's wildlife has garnered international fame.
This is pellets that we give to the tourists, the giraffes. We ration because we don't want the giraffes to eat too much of this. We want them to have more of the natural browse.
We may not always get the opportunity to go out to see the wildlife, but you'll never miss the opportunity to see it from the comfort of your couch.
This is home to animals that have been found out there either injured, abandoned, or confiscated from people who are holding them illegally.
Only on TV47 Wildlife, every Sunday at 7:30 p.m.
Disability is a club that anyone can join.
And once more, good morning. This is Morning Cafe. We basically want to talk about matters, the future of the multi-party democracy. But before that, allow me to introduce the guests this particular morning. Justice Juma, Dr. Justice Juma, party leader of the Justice and Freedom Party. A very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning to you.
I hope your Thursday morning is quite delightful so far.
Actually, it's a bright one and a peaceful Nairobi, unlike anticipated before. I knew most of Kenyans yesterday were really rushing out of Nairobi. People were anxious about the demos, and here we are, and actually it demonstrates how mature our democracy can be and how civil our society can be. I guess it's a beautiful environment and morning for business. And also for us in the studio, we're willing to rise up to our national duty and not disappoint.
Right, so things are looking spick and span on the roads.
Oh, yeah.
Quite lovely. Advice Mundalo, National Youth Chairman of the Jubilee Party. Uko salama?
Niko salama sana.
You know, right now we are really worried about people who are in Jubilee. Yeah. We really have to ask twice. Uko salama?
Are you sure you have not been in the throne? I'm very okay. I'm very okay. The party is very okay. And it's a beautiful morning for us to again contribute to nation building. And both myself and the party, that is what we are doing. We are in the business of contributing positively to nation building.
Right. Yes. Jubilee is okay. Those three words will form the discussion. Largely. We won't be diving micro into Jubilee Party, but then the future of political parties, 90 registered of them, but yes. Jubilee so far is, has quite the wrangle. So when you say Jubilee is okay, we'll be diving into those three words and what they really mean. And Kevin Osido, the Executive Director of County Governance Watch. Very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning to you, and how have you been?
I mean, Kosalam. I love that you're double-dressed. So
oh, thank you. I'm humbled. You also look very nice in your three-piece. Yeah, so my morning is great. We thank God for a very bright Thursday morning that looks very cool. And as Juma rightfully said, I think people were a little bit uncertain about today, especially given that Azimio had threatened to also get back to the streets. And so if you look at Kenyans out there, they feel excited and elated about the environment for them to be able to get out and do their businesses. The weather looks very, very promising as well. God has given us a very nice sunny morning for today. And we are hoping that the sun shall continue to shine as we seek to get better things during the course of the day and in the week.
Right.
Of course, disturbingly is the state of county governments, that the national government does not consider counties as institutions that need to be given what their due is, especially insofar as funding is concerned. And MCAs have now decided to come up with a coalition, a national coalition, to push, among other things,
do you think it's fair, briefly, before we actually, as you digress, before we get into what we're discussing, do you think it's fair for MCAs right now? The economy right now is hurting. Do you think it's fair for MCAs to come and say, we did our wallets fattened?
It's not fair, but I think the objective of these kind of coalitions and alliances should be to be able to help them do their work and to deliver in their mandate, which in my view is to represent the people and to ensure that services are delivered. But insofar as their pacts and demanding for more money is concerned, I think they are going beyond what is expected of them from the citizens. So I don't agree with the push for more money into their pockets.
Right. Hopefully we'll one day discuss all about that.
Actually, it's a two-coin scenario.
Right.
Because every pay should be merited, and if it had matching deliverables, then there would be no question about how much they want to be paid. If anything, I know better pay also address the root cause of corruption, because you're entrusting these guys to legislate about how much do you allocate to a county government. Are we talking about 4 billion? and you give somebody who is earning probably around 144,000 to handle 4 billion on behalf of the citizen. Actually, it's just a recipe for corruption. So generally, there should be a pay that is commensurate with also the high cost of living. I would not be insensitive to the demand, but I would also reward that office based on the responsibility that is bestowed in that office. But these guys need to prove themselves, because sometimes Kenyan citizens are not getting value for money. If we are able to bake the cake, and if the county government is able to sustain itself, raise its own revenue, these are the brains who can help us make county governments to raise sufficient revenue, if possible, plus, and make a county sustain itself. So if that is realized, then I think it will not be an absurd call. It will be a worthy call that can be rewarded based on their deliverables. But as it stands, I agree with you, the sensitivity of our context today may be wanting, but the government has brought it on itself. They are the ones who have contributed to high cost of living by raising taxation and all these other issues that they've brought. So definitely, everybody will be crying out for the increase.
Right. And Advice, I'm pretty sure you really wanted to add your voice on the same before we actually get into matters, if Jubilee is okay.
Okay, I know that is actually the main subject that you'd want us to discuss, but then the subject of the MCAs and devolution is very critical for this country, because we have come from quite far as a country. Where we are, we don't need to drop the ball. I will not be able to be very caged and very measured with my words like my brothers in terms of the remuneration of MCAs. I want to be straight and say that, in my view, I support them. What I don't support is their formula of asking for these increased remuneration, because just because the cost of living is high doesn't justify why people should not ask for better pay. Actually, that should be the reason why people should ask for better pay, because the cost of living is already high. But the problem is that in this country, we have been able to put ourselves in a position where everyone is right to ask for better pay except a politician. When a politician asks for better pay, it's a recipe for chaos, it is being insensitive, and all those kind of words. Look at it this way, MCAs, and I'm sure Osido, from where he sits at the County Governance Watch, will be able to agree with me that they are at the cornerstone of the people. The first leader that the citizen interacts with is the member of County Assembly. The MP is going to run away from the village and come in Nairobi, the senator, the governor, but the MCA is there. That person is meeting day-to-day needs of these people. And so it is right for them to ask for better pay. But the formula of asking, which includes like shouting down the PS, throwing out the PS, unfortunately, when they do that, they do not win public perception. When you do that, you make the public believe actually that salary in fact needs to be reduced, because you are not acting in the honorable manner that your office should be. That is the problem.
So basically they're demanding. I was to ask if an MC was elected, let's say in 2017, and for 3 years, the MC hasn't shown much progress around the ward. And again, the people again see this MCA out there saying, I need, my wallet to be fat, and they wonder, you haven't done anything for us. But then on the other hand, if, the moment an MC was elected and, so much changes happened, roads have been built, schools, and all that. The people, I'm pretty sure they won't mind the salaries being increased for the MCA.
First of all, I don't think the example is quite right, because when you say if the MCA was elected in 2017 and people have not seen much now, then they would not have re-elected that person. If that MCA was elected in 2017 and there's something people should be seeing now, that means that MCA was re-elected by those people. So that means there was a reason why that MCA got into office again. And you must be able to also, we can't run away from the fact that sometimes the populace does not necessarily judge elected leaders as per their mandate of what they are supposed to do, because MCAs are actually legislators. They are actually policy makers. They are not there to necessarily, their core business is not to build schools, right? But you see, the way the public judges elected leaders, those of us who have been on the campaign trail before, and those people who are in the mainstream politics, will tell you that you are re-elected on several things, including number of funerals you attend, the church fundraisings you are going to attend. Unfortunately, that is the reality of our politics.
So basically,
and that is why
the track record doesn't play a key role.
Yeah, it does to some extent in different parts of the country, but unfortunately, the reality is that it is not always as per the record of what you have done that the Constitution gives you mandate to do. Sometimes it's way other businesses, and that is why there is this cry for more money. And also the comparison between the two, honestly, if the MCA, if the MP is the next level after an MCA, then look at the difference in that pay. I think it's quite wide.
Right. Yeah. Party leader, I want to start with you on this. As the party leader,
right?
And I believe that this is a time, I think last year, so we were discussing with you, Mundalo, on matters this, how former President Uhuru Kenyatta is as a leader and of the Jubilee Party and all that. He has his own style, but that right now, according to the retirements, Presidential Retirements Benefit Act, I suppose after 6 months, he isn't supposed to be a party leader. Do you think, as the party leader yourself, do you think the move to try and oust him is the right way to go?
Well, a number of political parties have undergone serious conflicts, especially actually internal conflicts among themselves. And actually, as Justice and Freedom Party, we pride ourselves to have weathered all the storms, all the elections, and the challenges. As we're talking right now, we are a funded political party. And I know when money comes in, that's when parties normally become agitated. And I think what mostly tests the foundation of those parties is whether the parties was anchored on proper vision and had functional leadership. I know majority pride themselves on the Grecian schools of thought, where we tout much more of the Machiavellian concept, where you play the 48 laws of power, and you treachery here and there, deceit here and there. But I've always warned and told my fellow party leaders that what you sow is what you shall reap. Treachery beget treachery, honesty beget honesty, love beget love. And if your foundation is anchored on power play, then they'll do the same. And then again, we also have a political terrain where people hardly equip and nurture subsequent leaders to take over or hand over the baton. And element of a stay, especially in the political system, have always rendered those who are playing around those political parties to face a massive rift. And I think ODM is not spared. You've seen the breakaway number of their leaders, even elected leaders right now, crossing the floor. You've seen the Azimio affiliates not faithful to their cause. And I think that also applies in Kenya Kwanza, even UDA itself. And this exposed to me the type of political leadership that we need to correct, because it has a serious ramification in the national leadership. And if we are to have a sustainable economic environment, then we need an environment that is harmonious, an environment that is cohesive, and of course, a leadership that is guided by the vision. Because the good book says, where there is no vision, people perish or cast off restraint. And the elements of casting off restraint is when now people start measuring in minors.
So basically, to you, party leader, or a member of a party to change vote and, cross over to another party. It boils down to the leadership of the party leader, not the individual member who just decides, let me just cross.
Actually, it is actually an offense because a member of a political party is not cease to be a member of that political party if they begin to promote the ideologies and values of another political party. You cannot be of this political party and at the same time promoting the ideologies of the other political party. When we have such a manner of occurrences, then also it exposes the members of those political parties whether are they really privy to their political party's constitution or bylaws. And I think these ignorance are the things that are playing. And to me, I call them political bad manners, where people blatantly ignore the constitutions and act with impunity in an anarcho manner. Because anarchy is just what demonstration has been doing to us. Because if you don't follow the law, then you're inviting anarchy. And when you invite anarchy, we are simply just saying that we want the rule. We don't want the rule of law. And when we don't want the rule of law, then we don't want economic growth. Because there's no way economy can grow in an environment where institutions are not functioning.
Briefly, particularly before I engage Mundalo on this, as a party leader, he is former President Uhuru Kenyatta at the moment. He is the embattled, if you may, the party leader also for Jubilee Party.
Yes.
So do you think that he should be the one managing Jubilee Party at the moment?
Well, Trump was still was still at the head of is it what, Republican Party? And I think until they remove him, so every party has their own internal clauses that are not cross-cutting, which you can claim to be within the Political Parties Act. But every political party submit their party constitutions to registrar of political parties, and through their political parties constitution, the parties can be judged, even through the political parties dispute tribunal, should there be any conflict that is arising within the political party. So based on the Jubilee constitution, they may have their own internal provisions, which they should follow to the latter. And if it gives provisions on how transition clauses need to take place, I think they should do those. They should handle them within their constitutional framework, which also has a guidance on how those changes should take place. I'm sure they have a NEC that is functional. I'm sure they have NDC that is functional. And these are normally overseen by duly elected leaders of that political party. And duly elected leaders of that political party, I mean the ones who are whose name are with the register of political parties. So if that is properly done, then I don't think there's any issue. And also, political party can always amend and review their constitution. So if there are constitutional reviews that they've done internally that have been approved through the right mechanism, it can stand, and it can also be a source that we can use to justify whatever any demand any member of a political party may require. But as it stands, I think also I think I've raised this one with Kenya Kwanza government, and those were some of their major undoing when they were coming. As a party, actually, we were the first political party to go do a press conference a day before they're swearing in. And we raised 4 issues in concerns when we were advising the incoming president on the things he needed to do. And the things we needed, one advice was follow the constitution and do not violate the Political Parties Act, and more so to play dirty games with other political parties.
Exactly, we'll get to that. The Azimio demands, even recently, I think even yesterday, there was a tweet by Jubilee Party talking about matters, what the demands were to the Kenya Kwanza. Briefly, Mundalo, before we take a short break in the next 3 minutes from now, spell to us, walk us through the constitution of Jubilee Party. What should be taking place at the moment? Right now, how the whole transition, it clearly states that after 6 months, a former president should be, exiting. So how should this transition be looking like at the moment?
Okay, first of all, on matters of former President Uhuru Kenyatta, I've always made it clear that I do not like delving deep into discussing the former president, because I think that is way above my pay grade. And but be that as it may, what happens, and also I would want to correct an analogy that is being peddled by the media, that the former president has been ousted out of Jubilee. There is no such thing, because what happened is that Jubilee is trying to abide by the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya and being compliant. It is the law that says that 6 months after office, by the Retirement Benefits Authority Act, a former president would not be able to occupy a leadership position in a political party.
Sabina Shege has been named as the party
There is
leader.
nobody who has been able to actually ouster the former president. I think that should be able to come out clearly. And what is happening in Jubilee right now, I would want us, it is also being thrown deep outside context. Every political party that is strong enough has had these ups and downs at some point. It has never meant that the political party has then gone down the drain. At some point, we saw this in Ford Kenya, when Ford Kenya was a very strong political party. We saw this happening in ODM. You remember the Kasarani stories, and you remember Raila Odinga trying to get in control of the party and get it back on track. Now, what is happening in Jubilee is not something that is out of the ordinary in political party leadership. These are things that have always been there, and if anything, they only make the party stronger, and the members are actually participating. It shows you that the members are really interested in the party, and they're interested in the leadership of the party. So it should not be blown out of proportion. Back to your question of the constitution of the Jubilee. The neck of Jubilee is the executive arm that therefore makes decisions for on behalf of the NDC. And so, as it stands right now, the neck of Jubilee, when it makes a decision, that decision is the decision that is binding. And the ruling by the Political Parties Dispute Tribunal was very clear that there was a meeting of the NEC in Nakuru at some point.
Allow me to cut you short, because I really need to take a short break right now. We'll be back in a minute or so.
Yes.
Hold the thought so that you can actually, take us through this particular constitution, so that we actually understand when you talk about there's no ouster of former President Uhuru Kenyatta, then many wonder then why has the name of Sabina Shege been named there, so as the party leader. We'll be taking a look at some of these things and deeper. You're watching Morning Cafe. We'll be right back.
My name is George Washiri Optiven, and I'm very humbled to introduce to you to Rivu Gardens Phase 2. This property is adjacent to Konza Technopolis and only 4 minutes from the highway. This is a property whereby when you purchase it, you preserve your wealth, you build your wealth, you create your investment, create wealth for your generations. Don't miss this lifetime opportunity. Call this number right now, 0790 300 300. Optiven, inspiring possibilities. 23 years of impacting communities.
Wakati mwingine kama weekend, mimi najiachilia.
Hata ukumbuki history.
Nikifika watu wangu wote wakinipokea na kupokeleka.
Umeset the mood.
Nimeset the mood. Naweza kupokeleka. Nikitumai kwamba mzima popote pale ulipo, nikikukaribisha katika kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi. Jina langu Elizabeth Mutuku. Katika kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi tunakupa nafasi kutangamana nao kila siku ya Alhamisi kuanzia saa 1:30 kuendelea siku nyingine. Tutapatana papa hapa umjue kiongozi mwingine.
Jiunge nasi toka hapa hadi ufuoni mwa bahari. Meli yetu itakapotua nanga kwa uhondo ribo ya riwaya hii mwisho wa kosa. Monica.
It's early morning in Maralal. Start your morning informed, educated, entertained, and above all, know your country. From the beautiful plains of Samburu County to the skyscrapers of Nairobi, Morning Cafe certainly got you covered. Indeed, a beautiful place to watch and certainly a moment of understanding and knowing your country. Indeed, to the remotest parts of every county.
Join me, Linda Alela, every weekday from 6 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
The diversity of Kenya's wildlife has garnered international fame.
This is pellets that we give to the tourists, the giraffes. We ration because we don't want the giraffes to eat too much of this. We want them to have more of the natural browse.
We may not always get the opportunity to go out to see the wildlife, but you'll never miss the opportunity to see it from the comfort of your couch.
This is home to animals that have been found out there either injured, abandoned, or confiscated from people who are holding them illegally.
Only on TV 47 Wildlife, every Sunday at 7:30 p.m.
Disability is a club that anyone can join.
I live with special needs. It means I have a limitation. There are things I can't be able to do personally myself.
And in our journey to talk about disability, we tell the stories of those with disabilities and even sit with specialists to understand what it means for those affected directly and indirectly.
Everybody's life, mine has
the future of multi-party democracy. And right now, briefly, before we get into other political parties, Mundalo, before the break, you were spelling out the constitution of Jubilee and trying to make us understand constitutionally what is really happening in the party.
Yes, and I was trying to tell you that the neck of the party is the executive body that runs the party. We have the National Delegates Convention. Actually, if I can just read for you Article 8 of the Jubilee Party Constitution, this is what it says. To act as the executive body of the National Delegates Convention and ensure that all decisions made by all party organs are duly carried out and all party policies are adhered to. B, to supervise the administrative machinery of the party at all levels and take such measures as it deems necessary to enforce the decision and programs of the party as laid down by the National Delegates Convention. So that is basically the role of the neck of the party. And when the Political Parties Disputes Tribunal made a ruling in what most of us had thought was not a well-constructed neck meeting that happened, that was able to install Honorable Kanini Kega as the acting Secretary General, that was able to be upheld by the Political Parties Disputes Tribunal, and that is law. So we cannot be able to really run away from what has happened in the law. Most people are trying to say that the NEC is taking decisions that are not right or something. That is what I have just read. Those are the actual functions of the NEC. What we need to understand also is that we have a culture in Kenya where political parties are owned in a certain way. They are owned by individuals. And that is why when any other way is tried, everybody tries to think that then it is not the right way. And one of the problems we have had, in my view, since after election, is that every time political parties try to get themselves in order, it is alluded to be either a Kenya Kwanza or an Azimio issue. I would want to state that Jubilee matters are actually internal matters, and these are just a party trying to get its leadership correct. There is nothing about Kenya Kwanza inside this. I served on the Azimio campaign secretariat coordinating the youth campaign, and in equal sense, there have been teething problems within Azimio. But the problem is that when you highlight a problem today in Azimio, you are perceived to be Kenya Kwanza. That is, which I think is very wrong. It is supposed to be we should not be able to run away from being accountable to the people and being having our leadership correct. Just because we are fearing that when I say this, I will be able to be saying that I'm sympathetic to Kenya Kwanza. We have been able to see some of the problems that have even been there in Azimio. Honorable Lonyangapo, whose party was part of Azimio, has just shifted the other day to form a coalition with Kenya Kwanza. That should be able to show you that there is a teething problem. And what I want to address even to the Azimio leadership together is that let us be able to face the challenges in the coalition and the challenges in political parties head on without necessarily imagining that somebody from Kenya Kwanza must be engineering them. When we have our teething problems, let us solve them and let us not run away from them.
Let me interject a little bit here, yes. Mungalo. And I'm looking at the Jubilee Party on your Twitter. There's a statement that you have there, and just to read for you, it says, among the list of demands tabled by Azimio is a call by the illegitimate regime to stop the assault on rival political parties by commanding his troops to attempt to hijack the party leader position on the same day that Azimio is protesting against his regime. Ruto has confirmed to Kenyans that he does not care about the dialogue. This is an official statement by the official page of Jubilee Party. So are you telling us this morning that some leaders, some top leaders in Jubilee Party are not faulting the Kenya Kwanza regime against trying to interfere with matters, the bedroom matters of Jubilee?
I agree that government should not interfere with matters of political parties. But I also want to say that political parties, when they have their own issues and trying to get their leadership correct, somebody should not always run away to be able to blame the administration for the sake of looking like somebody is delving into their issues.
Mm-hmm.
Jubilee matters have not been delved into by Kenya Kwanza. Jubilee has an internal leadership wrangle, which should be solved internally. Just the same way I'm telling you that when you look at the structure of Azimio and the teething problems that have existed in Azimio, that have made some of our members behave the way they have been able to behave, we should not quickly be able to blame Kenya Kwanza for it. We should be able to ask ourselves, why should this member of parliament behave like this? Why should this person behave like this?
Right. And
call them into the internal dispute resolution and listen to them, get their view, and see what exactly we need to do. The culture of being able to quickly say somebody is interfering with you, to me, is escapist. Is just being escapic and running away from the reality. But the truth is that in Jubilee, in Jubilee Party, there is an internal leadership crisis.
But then
now,
does it spill over? Because Jubilee is part of a coalition, which is the Azimio coalition. Does it again spill over? Because there.
Not that when Azimio meets, Jubilee's issues are able to spill over. First of all, I want to tell you that Azimio had a parliamentary group meeting recently. I think it was a month or two ago.
I think last month.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And Jubilee MPs were not invited. Jubilee members of parliament were not invited. So you cannot be able. That is a question for the Secretary General of Azimio, who is Junet, to maybe answer. So it is not. And when you look at what happened with the Honorable Kainan, who was withdrawn yesterday, Honorable Kainan had been put on the bipartisan team of Kenya Kwanza, which was not right. And I agree with that. But the problem is, look at it. We have 7 members of the bipartisan committee. The Azimio team, 5 out of 7 members of that team are ODM members. 1 is Wiper. Jubilee was not given a slot on that bipartisan team. But now, when it is until somebody else is able to involve Jubilee, that is when Azimio remembers that Jubilee is part of Azimio. That is the time that now we have complaints and Azimio claiming that we're using our members. But the question is, from the onset, did you as Azimio involve these members? And that's why I'm saying we as Azimio have to solve our internal issues internally and stop blaming administration and Kenya Kwanza for all our issues. We must be able to face our issues head on. We must be able to get our house in order and stop being escapic and trying to look for justification and avoid solving problems through quickly blaming the administration.
A question arises here before I engage Osito. A question arises here. the elections are over. The 2022 elections are over.
Yes.
We understand the Azimio coalition was formed for the purposes of winning the election. Why is Jubilee Party still in Azimio at the moment? For posterity measures, are you looking for posterity measures? Why is Jubilee Party still in Azimio at the moment? If what you're talking about, Jubilee, members of parliament not being invited into the PG, not having a single member of the Azimio, set aside into the bipartisan talks, not having a single member of Jubilee Party. Why is Jubilee Party still in Azimio at the moment?
There is the law. And when you get into a coalition, you sign and you're able to deposit that agreement to the Register of Political Parties. It stipulates for how long that coalition is able to hold. So it's not a question of you come in and get out of at whatever time. So first of all, Jubilee is part of Azimio by law. Jubilee is part of Azimio by coalition agreement. So it is not like you just, to be faithful to agreements and to stand by the rule of law, you go with that. And that's what I'm saying. For instance, the issues that were being discussed yesterday about Honorable Sabina Chege being ousted from the seat.
As minority.
Yes. If her conduct has been wrong, the first thing you do is to, first of all, have an internal issue and understand and get to whip her internally.
Okay.
Get to discipline her internally, first of all, and get to also know what is the problem. We don't quickly run and be able to say this person is now a Kenya Kwanza person. The same things that were happening to Kina Honorable Jalango, just because you took a photo with the president, now we are able to castigate you. And the president is the president of this republic, and all of us are held today under that same president. So we cannot be able to actually always think that our leaders and our honorable members and any other Kenyan has no right to be able to appear anywhere with the president. And when we think there is a problem with that, we must be able to solve our problems first without necessarily apportioning blame.
And speaking of matters appearing, Osido, the Jubilee Party leader, former President Uhuru Kenyatta, has been recently, I think it was last week when he appeared on the Jubilee headquarters. This was sort of the first time he was authoritatively, there. We will see him, and he was there, preaching peace. Many would ask, did he come too late to save this party? And there's also, as you answer that, now what are the options now? Because some Jubilee members who are there and who are allied to Kenya Kwanza are going for his jugular. So what are the options that former President Uhuru Kenyatta has at the moment?
So let me start from the first point, which basically is, did he come in too late? And my response is yes. I think that if you look at the manner in which the Jubilee Party conducted itself, even ahead of joining the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance, a lot of the engagements more or less narrowed around former President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, and that was largely because he was the president. Right from the institutionalization of the party, which borders on the issues around political party leadership and ownership in this country, which my colleagues have talked about, all the way to the political party governance, leadership, and management and administrative instruments. All these things narrowed down to that one individual, President Uhuru Kenyatta. And that was purely because he was president. Now, beyond being president, and I've seen people talking about transitionary clauses, the Constitution says this and that, we never prepare people for transitions. And that is why even at the presidential level, we are still talking about opening the server. Because as at the point when you get into a competition or open up a political party, register it, and put up the institutions of power, governance, leadership, administration, and management. How do you imagine that one day Uhuru Kenyatta will not be the Jubilee Party leader? How do you prepare even the membership, the leadership, and everyone, including coalition partners? How do you communicate it? How do you ensure that people understand that that actually works? And the same question would go to Justus, imagining that one time you are not the party leader of your party. Imagining that one time Raila Amolo Odinga will not be the party leader of ODM. do we really bother to prepare people for those transitions? We don't. So did the president, former president, come in at the right time? No and yes. Yes, because the party is dead. It is dying. That's why Azimio cannot even consider it as having membership.
Azimio is being very crude.
Yes, and that's the truth. Why did Uhuru Kenyatta have to come all the way from resting and having fun with his grandchildren and family members to save Jubilee Party? He didn't have to. But imagining that some very special conversations, like forming a bipartisan team, is taking place, and my party members are not part of that team. Of course, it should disturb anyone who has serious concern for a party like Jubilee, which has been in government for more than 10 years.
Basing on his past leadership, where we will see him, sit back, watch, and then come later and put his voice.
Yeah.
Do you think, because there is a looming, NDC on the 22nd of May this particular year?
Yeah.
So what are the options of Uhuru Kenyatta?
So
do you think he might be interested in lobbying, because he started Jubilee?
Yeah.
He was the founder of Jubilee, so he understands the vision of this party moving forward. Do you think he'll let his baby go?
No, he will have to, and that's one of the options, which is why he's actually waking up. That probably issues around trust deficits within the party, as it were, he probably sits and looks at the leadership and he probably cannot trust them. So he's saying, even if we were to have proper people in office, who would these kind of people be? Where would we get them from? And that borders down into the institutions that my colleagues are talking about. What is the membership of the NDC? Okay, it is comprised of members of the political party. How do you become a member of Jubilee? Have they put together registration drives, and up to the level where you get to NDCs, and what happens at the grassroots level? Because I'm sure that there could be other members of the political party that are also wondering, funny, what has suddenly happened? Why has the former president risen up? What are the options of communication? How do you talk to your party branch chair in Kirinyaga, for example, or in West Uyoma Ward, where I come from, if at all they have membership there? Do they also resonate with the issues that are happening at the national level? So one of the options, in my view, is to effectively communicate to the party members, so that even if they are to mobilize, lobby, and ensure that they have the right people, there are people who will be able to stick to the spirit and letter of both the party and the governance instruments like the Constitution.
Right.
Number two is bolster trust. I don't think that the former president trusts the current leadership of Jubilee. And that is why these conversations around Kenya Kwanza getting involved are actually happening. Because he sits back and is wondering, so you are Mheshimiwa Kanini Kega. We were with you and used to talk, very boldly about our party, how we want to form government, how we want to move forward. And then suddenly you have moved. Mheshimiwa Sabina Chege, we were with you here. And you used to say, Mheshimiwa Rais, mimi niko na wewe, wapende wasipende, and all this. Then suddenly what has happened? So maybe because we are also human beings, the levels of trust, confidence, courage to face someone and say, I don't like what you are doing, is missing within Jubilee Party. And so maybe the former president is imagining that if I walk up and come with that authority, which used to make people speak the way they were speaking, I could probably bring in some order and reorganize things. Of course, largely to mention that political parties need to focus on the transitional aspects, even of their constitutions. And I think that's one of the loopholes that Jubilee is bordering on. And it is also not right to say that Kenya Kwanza, ODM has suffered this issue, Ford Kenya has suffered this issue, because all those are different political parties that have not been in government, But Jubilee has been in government, and they are supposed to be able to provide that particular trajectory that other political parties would be looking forward to, saying we want to be like Jubilee, And I don't think Jubilee has set the best example for political parties in Kenya,
right,
looking at that particular path.
Juma, even the whole tagline for Jubilee is tuko pamoja. When they started, Jubilee, when former President Uhuru Kenyatta, his vision for Jubilee at this point. Still the same question. Come the 22nd of May, as a party leader, what do you envision to be happening? The kind of lobbying, what the dynamics will be playing along on the 22nd of May?
Well, today I'm being reduced to promote Jubilee, which is my competitor. The only closest we've come to Jubilee is that both of our parties begin with a J. If you look at the format of political parties. And what I would advise fellow political leaders is that your light won't shine brighter by extinguishing another light. And I think sometimes the root cause of what we are dealing with, because we may be discussing symptoms and signs, and we can intellectually, rhetorically go around it, but maybe we may not look at the root cause of what we're dealing with. Because the obsession to win election, where people cease to think about the next generation, they think about the next election. And they are so obsessed about it that every move is about next election. When Cherera 4 were being removed, it was about next election. When there was a proposal to remove General Ogola, it was about next election. Formation of IEBC is about next election. The violation of Political Parties Act, when political parties knowingly entered into agreements, and the coalition agreements are stated clearly within our constitution, and the framework for now to engage in a coalition agreement is also very clear. And the moment you've entered into a coalition, you can only exit through the provided mechanism that the coalition agreement provides. Failure to which it amounts to violation of the rule of law, which all of us are swearing to uphold. And I have said here before that if the opposite of the rule of law is anarchy, and no one desires that. And the moment anyone is seeking to benefit, sometimes look at the beneficiaries within the political player or within the political field, who are benefiting and what are informing what they're benefiting in. Because one key danger that democracy is facing today is populism, personalism, and they say where there is populism and there is personalism, institutions don't function correctly because populism thrives around sycophancy. They do not like accountability. Actually, they are the Mackenzie style. They are the Jesus and they are the God, and they decide the doctrine. There is no scrutiny, there is no challenge, there is no accountability. Right. And because of that, corruption thrives around such environments. There is nepotism, there is tribalism. And what suffers then are the institutions. They say for you to have a strong economy, you need strong working institutions. And strong working institutions require accountability, they require merit and competency. My friend, what we are all desiring, and I think we can all agree that all of us want the economy of this country to move forward. I was looking at the news the headlines, news headlines today in our newspapers regarding our economy, and it's not a good news. And clearly it's demonstrating the fruits of this government. If manufacturing can fall, and it's not just falling, it's falling by major digits. Okay. And it's falling why? Because cheaper goods are coming into this.
So boils down to matters accountability, which before we take a short break in the next 4 minutes, I would really want to know, as Justice and Freedom Party, are you part of the political parties liaison committee?
Yes, we are.
So what's now the significance? Because having all these parties together, you sit down. What happens in the political parties
liaison committee is that's a dialogue. That's a dialogue platform created by the Political Parties Act Article 38, actually after a regular report, where all the political parties should have consensus on for purposes of reviews and matters of election. They sit together with the registered political parties, IEBC, and all the other registered political parties. And we address matters of election and the issues of national growth. So when you look at certain virtues, which actually are not good virtues for economic growth or effective democratic growth, then I think as a party, it is just fair enough that we call it out. When personalism and populism, the one that I've just mentioned, are occupying the democratic space, and they are raining on our face, the ultimate result of this would be negative economic growth. And that will affect all of us. And it's not something good for a nation that a nation should be proud of. So leaders who are propagating this concept of populism, where you are, one individual is the political party, and the party is an individual. Remove an individual from that political party, there is no political party. And such political parties also do not function within the laid down guidelines. They violate the laws, their own laws. And this is why you've seen we will not have stronger lifespan of political parties. Majority just create political parties for convenience, and then they kill them. And this is what is also happening to our national institutions. The parliament has failed to function as parliament. Judiciary is failing to function as judiciary. Recently, you saw people are running from this judiciary and they're running to Hague to seek redress. And all the various organs that are supposed to be organs that are stewarding the sovereign authority of the citizen, that is delegated by the citizen, so that they manage indirectly the powers of the citizen, have become the very, very institutions that are now overbearing, that are now fleecing and suppressing, actually sacrificing the citizen they need to serve. And to me, all this cumulatively boils up to what I call bad leadership and the type of politics that we need to do away with. Because if we are to be competitive globally, if we are to have a competitive economic environment, then we must go back to the institutions that works. And that is why I invite them. As a leader of Justice and Freedom Party, I've led that party for over a decade. I've been chosen twice through the national delegates. And sometimes they ask me, how do we manage to a point that there's no conflict? Because the key or the secret within JFP...
Allow me to get the secrets of getting your party intact later on. And you're also speaking about matters going back to the institutional, matters that really form a party. We'll be discussing that and, the evolution of multi-party, back to when we had a one-party state and right now. What's the whole difference of that? You're watching Morning Cafe. We'll be right back.
Wakati mwingine kama weekend, mimi najiachilia.
Hata ukumbuki hii story.
Nikifika watu wangu wakinipokea na kupokeleka.
Umeset the mood.
Nimeset the mood. Naweza kupokeleka. Nikitumai kwamba mzima popote pale ulipo, nikikukaribisha katika kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi. Jina langu Elizabeth Mutuku. Katika kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi tunakupa nafasi kutangamana nao kila siku ya Alhamisi kuanzia saa 1:30 kuendelea siku nyingine. Tutapatana papa hapa umjue kiongozi mwingine.
Jiunge nasi toka hapa hadi ufuoni mwa bahari. Meli yetu itakapotua nanga kwa uhondo ribo ya riwaya hii mwisho wa kosa. Monica.
It's early morning in Maralal. Start your morning informed, educated, entertained, and above all, know your country. From the beautiful plains of Samburu County to the skyscrapers of Nairobi, Morning Cafe certainly got you covered. Indeed, a beautiful place to watch and certainly a moment of understanding and knowing your country, indeed to the remotest parts of every county.
Join me, Linda Alela, every weekday from 6 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
The diversity of Kenya's wildlife has garnered international fame.
This is pellets that we give to the tourists, the giraffes. We ration because we don't want the giraffes to eat too much of this. We want them to have more of the natural browse.
We may not always get the opportunity to go out to see the wildlife, but you'll never miss the opportunity to see it from the comfort of your couch.
This is home to animals that have been found out there either injured, abandoned, or confiscated from people who are holding them illegally.
Only on TV 47 Wildlife, every Sunday at 7:30 p.m.
Disability is a club that anyone can join.
I live with special needs. It means I have a limitation. There are things I can't be able to do personally myself.
And in our journey to talk about disability, we tell the stories of those with disabilities and even sit with specialists to understand what it means for those affected directly and indirectly.
Morning Cafe. Jum, allow me to engage Sid on this.
But I'm sure you want to be able to explain about the JFPs.
Last month, we did see Kileshwa MCA, Robert Alai, saying that in Kenya we should have two parties, that is ODM and UDA.
That's absurd.
And, it speaks largely about, I'll actually come to Jum on this because I was doing, a tabulation here. And out of about, the political parties that are in the country, the 90 registered, it's only a small percentage that has a representation in the National Assembly, which again now brings questions on matters. If a political party isn't represented in the National Assembly, in the Senate, so what is its role in how it really plays a key role in the country? What do you think, since the evolution of multi-party system and democracy in the country, what is our trajectory so far? Have these particular political parties formed the national discussions? Have they helped us move forward?
And my answer to that question is no, which is why for people like myself, I am of the view that we should actually limit the number of political parties, and that is bordering on issues around ideology.
To maybe how many?
Yeah, a small number, like 5. You go to some of these well-developed progressive countries like the US, Europe, or Britain, you don't find talks about political parties up to even 20, Of course, you have smaller ones like conservatives, liberals, and all that. But you come to Africa, particularly in Kenya, but even in Africa, you go to South Africa, you don't get up to even 10 political parties, But even if they're there, the vibrancy of political parties is still very skim. Talk about ANC and is it FV Malema Freedom Party, EFF, Economic and Freedom Party. So you don't get the kind of vibrancy that a normal citizen or a common citizen who is expected to have an array of a decision to make around why should I be a member of XYZ political party taking place. So I think that we need to narrow down the options for citizens by ensuring that political parties are doing the work for which they are actually being formed. So you ask many of these political parties, what is your ideology? They can't even talk about it. Of course, many of them in certain places will tell you we are social democrats, but you go further and ask, so what is social democracy? There is nothing about it that really would excite a common citizen to join that party. Number 2, what is the value of my being a member of your political party? Is it just to get you into power, of which a number of times, as we see in this country, even once you get to power, you never go back to the membership of the political parties. The members are left there to basically want for themselves what the party cannot provide, which is why the more number of elected officials we have in this country borders on the length and the history of the political party. So you go to ODM, you will get as many elected members being members of ODM or affiliate parties of ODM, purely because of the regions where these political parties are also stronger. You go to UDA, the UDA was very vibrant ahead of the last elections, and that's probably why we also have as many members elected through UDA. But you begin to ask yourself, so what is the benefit of even the members of the different coalitions? You don't even have an elected MCA across all the 47 counties, but yet you are a registered political party. Then look at the requirements of registration for a political party. One of those requirements is that you must have a physical presence in at least half of the 47, so 24 counties. Further to that, you must have at least 1,000+ members, which means therefore 24,000 members of members of the political party across the country. But most of these political parties don't have those kind of measures. So I think that if we can be able to narrow down the margins and narrow down the options, we will have many serious political parties, we will have serious contenders in political parties, and we'll also be locking the options of people who want to be elected on this political party, then tomorrow they run to another political party. And then lastly is the value for the political party. Now, Kenya has what is called the Political Parties Fund. And I think that this is one of the lucrative aspects of some of the leaders within political parties. Surprisingly, even among all the 91+ political parties that we have in Kenya, not up to 15 of them, and my colleagues could probably correct me, are beneficiaries of the political parties fund, because part of the disbursement...
48. Today they are 48.
Yeah, okay, 48 out of 91+, you know. So that really brings to the question around why should we have these political parties? And lastly, I think the failure to speak for the citizenry. If you cannot be able to front issues around citizens, for example, cost of living, issues around even, mayor leadership and governance issues, that accountability for a leader is failing, and the political parties, many of them are silent on the state of affairs today, then I don't think that really adds a lot of value. So I agree with Robert Alai, and it's a conversation that we'll continue to have, and I think that it would be better for the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties also to begin to do an index, on performance of political parties, so that if, for example, you have an elected member in Bunge, we want to know what kind of bills or motions have they brought to the House. Of course, other civil society organizations are doing it, but they're just doing it for the sake of creating awareness. There is no mechanism to hold that political party accountable. They have no mechanism to ensure that the political parties are actually espousing the objectives of those parties to the citizen.
Then a question arises here, the goodwill of the party leaders. In Kenya Kwanza, we're seeing affiliate parties of Kenya Kwanza being encouraged, quote unquote, to join, to fold the parties and join UDA. It was a conversation that was told after Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua said that, all right, we won't be having this conversation at the moment. We will have it if it's really moving forward, if we see need be. We did see, the Secretary General of UDA, Cleophas Malala, going to these particular parties and telling them you really need to fold. But then major parties there were saying no, we can't really fold, because even the affiliate parties know folding their own parties has consequences to them. They might lose the political strongholds, the political optics in the country. How does the goodwill of now political parties leaders really play out?
It plays out up to the level of getting what you want. Because in Kenya, political parties are special purpose vehicles that border largely on the ownership of the political parties. Because registering in the political party really is not as easy as we might think that it is. And that is why political parties, I think as just as said earlier on, do not transcend an election. Yeah, other than a few like ODM that has done, I think, almost 3 elections now. Jubilee has done 2 elections, and look at now the kind of issues it has. We are looking forward to seeing how UDA will be able to go beyond 2022. And so the general conversation is that the political goodwill,
Wiper Party has also.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Wiper Party has also been able to do very good, but based on attachment to a coalition. Because the question would be, how will Wiper do it as a standalone political party? So parties are struggling, but they are largely based. The goodwill borders on the ownership and leadership of that party, and that is why a lot of the political parties are stronger in regions where the owners of the political party leaders come from. So if you go, for example, to a place like Taita Taveta, you ask yourself, so how strong would Ford Kenya be, for example? How strong would Wiper be in Hola, you know? So those are questions that I think political parties should begin to ask themselves, so that even the goodwill to mobilize and get people coming and joining these political parties should not be vested and vetted on the membership or rather leadership of that political party. So that's why if we can be able to amalgamate all these parties to basically focus on one. Look at a single multi-party. Before we had multi-party, you know, when KANU was KANU, Baba, Mama, na Watoto, you know, it was easy to hold government accountable because you tell that KANU would be in government. And so if anybody wanted to focus on accountability, then you know the person to basically approach. But today, we are in a mechanism where the context is based on, you want to ask a question as Kevin Osido. Maybe I'm not even a member of ODM because I am not. But if I ask a question, already Kenya Kwanza people will say, we know who has sent you. But yet it's a question on feelings around the state of the nation, state of the economy, and a number of issues. So I think that Jubilee Party is giving us the issues around Jubilee now are giving us an opportunity to look at political parties in terms of their existence and basically the context. What are the lessons we are learning and how can we strengthen political parties?
And then speaking of, you know, people who would actually come and ask some of these matters without actually being affiliated to political parties. In National Assembly, Mundalo, there are about 12 members who are independent. You know, this is according to the ORPP as of last year. Speak on, you know, the role of the minority parties and the independent, you know, candidates, even in the National Assembly, because even when you look at when a particular vote is being cast in the National Assembly, members will, you know, have to align to, you know, the political formations to actually have this particular, you know, vote cast and all that. But then the independent, you know, candidates, the minority parties that, you know, have sort of like one, I'm looking at here, GDP has one, CCM has one, you know, DP has one. Some have one, some have three, some have five. What's their role in the National Assembly?
First of all, for as long as someone is an elected representative, regardless of from which party they come from, whether it is small or big, they have equal rights in parliament, and they are equally as important. And one of the best elements about some of these elected leaders, either the independents or those ones from the perceived smaller parties, is that they can be able to help tilt the vote, and also they have the luxury to have independence of thought, because they do not necessarily have to be whipped by parties and coalitions. And that's why I do not, I would wish that we had a leaner political party playing field, but at this point in the country, I do not agree with Osido that would need to have like 5 political parties, because as it stands now, until we correct the political hygiene in the country, we cannot be able to push this country into having very few political parties, for the single reason that we still believe that political parties are owned by individuals. With that belief, so many Kenyans would not stand a chance to even participate in these political processes. You've just mentioned the number of people who are elected on the various parties like that you've mentioned. It's possible that those people would have never made it to parliament if we stuck to how things should be. So until we're able to move as a country to a place where, one, we accept that political parties are public entities. Political parties are not companies. They are not sole proprietorships. But the problem in Kenya is that we have really, it has eaten into us that we believe without the existence of Right Honorable Raila Odinga, then ODM cannot exist. We are at that level. Without the existence of President William Ruto, then UDA cannot exist. We have to have a place where, let us first of all accept that political parties are public institutions. And that's why they are funded by the ORPP. By mere fact that they are funded by the taxpayer, it means they must be accountable to the taxpayer. We see people going up in arms to ask what the money that, for example, has gone to institutions like maybe universities has done. Where has our money in KEMSA gone? Where has our money in another parastatal gone? Have you ever seen people come in arms to ask where has our money in ODM gone? Or where has our money in Jubilee gone? Or where has our money in UDA gone? Because even we, the people ourselves, do not believe that those are public institutions and we must also be able to hold them to account. And that is the luxury that political parties are also enjoying, that nobody particularly is holding them to account. When we see mass arrests and we are saying that the CEO of wherever has been arrested because there is misuse of funds in this organization, the chairman of which parastatal has been able to, because of this problem. Have you been able to see any such happening for political parties that we are able to say, the party leader of Truth and Justice Party is now facing the ESTC because we have discovered that there was misuse of funds in that political party? This is something that has not happened. It does not necessarily mean that there is that political parties are so clean.
Well, it really needs to happen. And
it needs to happen.
And
members are out of it.
And speaking of which, as the youth chairman of Jubilee Party, maybe 10 years from now, I don't know if you'll still be the youth chairman. Probably and hopefully, you'll have moved ranks and into the top brass. And this might be conversations we might be still having. Moving forward, maybe 10 years from now, 15 years from now, how many political parties do you envision that we have in this country?
We have 90 political parties as it stands now. And you said 10 years from now, whether I'll be the youth chair of Jubilee, definitely not, because in politics you have to keep moving. And the issue of being in the top brass does not arise, because being the youth chair of Jubilee, I serve on the neck. That is the highest organ of the party. So,
but then as maybe as party leader or as our secretary general,
I could become secretary general even very soon. You never know. So, but be that as it may, the issue of I lose your track of question. Maybe if you can just take that again.
How many
political parties should be there? Today we already have 90. And we have over 200 that are awaiting registration. If you go to the records of the register of political parties, so many political parties are actually awaiting registration. The question is, why are political parties being registered? Political parties are not necessarily being registered because someone wants to advance political processes or participation of politics. Some of these political parties are being registered, one, for convenience, because politicians are in a political party, but because they envision that there might be a problem in future, they're already working out a strategy. Two, we have people who are registering political parties because nowadays it's also entrepreneurship. You register a party and sell. So it has also become business in itself. So in 10 years' time, and because the registrar cannot block parties from registering because the law does not allow her. For as long as you're able to meet the requirement, you'll be able to pass as a political. And that's why political parties today, we have 91. But I can assure you, not more than 5 of those parties have offices across the country. I would dare say even not more than 3.
Right.
Some of these so that's what I'm talking about.
So 10 years time,
in 10 years time, we will have
political parties.
No, in 10 years time, I'm projecting over 200 political parties. But then let me just say this before you move on to me. The strength of a political party is determined by its presence, especially in the National Assembly and its elected representatives. How many parties in Kenya qualify as parliamentary political parties? Today in Kenya, only 4 parties are parliamentary political parties. The rest are just political parties. They're just existing somewhere. And for a long time, they have only been 3. For the first time, Wiper has now qualified to be a parliamentary political party, and that's what makes them 4. And that is the whole conversation. And I think that is what Wasido was talking about when he said 3. political parties. It is actually the parliamentary political parties in Kenya today are only 4.
But
and Juma, I want to, because, Osido asked a pertinent question earlier. So what is the role of, all these political parties that we do have here? You say 91 political parties are the, at least 200, awaiting whole registration.
Yes.
What is the role?
Great level of information needs to be clarified around our constitution. Sometimes we can be quite inward-looking to an extent that we blur the view to see the horizon and the bigger picture. Article 1 of our constitution affirms that Kenya is a multi-party democracy. And Article 91 clarifies on the roles of a political party, which one of them includes promotion of a national unity. And it must be registered along a national outlook with specific provision on how a political party should run. Actually, a political party should have an offices in not less than 24 counties, with membership not less than 1,000 in a minimum of 24 counties for it to get provisional registration. Full registration. And it must have a national outlook. Actually, a political party should not be formed around religious or ethnic outline, which mostly the populace and the personage operates around, where you see people mix one tribe here and there, and then they say, no, these are stronger political parties. If anything, I would really advocate that we demystify that. And by the way, my brother Osido, in the US, they have not just Democrats and Republicans.
Yeah, that's why I spoke
we
about
have socialists,
conservatives
we have
and
liberal,
yeah.
the Green Party. So similarly,
they can't
UK,
get up to 10.
No, there are many. Okay. There are many if you look at them. When you come back
to locally, how many political parties have?
That's what I'm coming back to. When you come to multi-partyism, where even currently you've seen us objecting about this bipartisan talk, because constitutionally it's not befitting on the context of multi-partyism. Because it is just now bringing, those are the ideas of two-party system sitting together and thinking that now they run the country in violation of the constitution, outrightly. Now, you see, the formation of political party are driven by ideologies. And let me tell you, to register a political party, my brothers, and this I invite you, like JFP, we have qualified and we are audited every year annually. Register of political parties regulate every political party in terms of the number of membership. This number of membership, they drops, and you have to keep on improving them. And those offices, I tell you, if you see a registered political party, don't take it for granted. The challenge we are having within this context is what in other jurisdiction actually has worked out very in a very effective way. Actually, other jurisdictions have what they call affirmative action, where when it comes to funding political parties, you find that the emerging political parties get more funding to be brought to equitable level playing field with the already established political party. Most of our established political party, which again have been established around individuals or specific tribes. These tribes, we know them, or these individuals, we know them and how they've rallied their tribes and how some of them have plundered public resources. And yes, with that strength and the might of money, not ideology. If you listen to various political parties that we're having, and Osido, if you're in this country, you should have known, even during the BBI discussion.
Yeah.
The petitioner who petitioned 70 constituencies was Justice and Freedom Party. The only petition that went through all the courts with unanimous support of all the judges. And that was Justice and Freedom Party is a sweat and fight to stop anyone affronting the interests of the of Kenyans. And again, it was also bipartisan handshake were two political parties, but then it was Jubilee and ODM, coming together and willing to widen up and look at the national scope of where Kenya needs to go by including everybody and affirming the very, very spirit of our constitution, which affirms that Kenya is a multi-party democracy. If we had funding that supports all these other political parties to be able to promote their ideology, I assure you, no one will even be daring to talk about these tribal outfits. But as it stands...
How much of the political party do you need for funding?
Well, as it stands right now, the Political Parties Act provides that 0.03 of national revenues should fund the political parties. Actually, the Jubilee government has fallen below that completely. That should amount to around 6.4 billion.
So what do you do with this fund?
Sorry, Kenya Kwanza, my apology. Kenya Kwanza, which is UDA, actually, instead of 6.4 billion, just the last quarter,
okay,
they gave 1.4 billion. So
what do you do with
now they have cut from 1.4 billion, and that 1.4 billion, larger chunk of it is going to UDA. Another chunk of it is, which are already established political parties.
Okay.
So you're finding that now parties like Justice and Freedom Party, who have been struggling, you and I, we struggle before you can achieve or attain the political party's fund. You have to fund from your own pocket. And it's not an easy thing. That is why I give it to whoever has registered a political party and is running a political party today without political party's fund. I give them salute. If we were to have free and fair field, everybody, if possible, should have a minimum standard of funding. Such that when you are judging all these political parties, you should be judging these political parties fairly based on the funding that you give to the political parties. And when you're talking about funding political parties, let's not be myopic and just look at individual benefits. Let's look at the national benefits. What advantages will the citizen enjoy when we have diverse ideologies in the political framework? Because if we limit ideologies, the recipe has been these chaos we're having. Why we keep on losing lives? Because people fail to have diversity and people are limited just to tribal whipping and name calling and personified campaigns, which are devoid of issues and which we direly need in our electoral process for us to have credible leaders who can have functional institutions, because we will not have functional National Assembly if we can't bring leaders who match that level. Even in the county assembly, if we can't bring issue-driven leaders, which, as we're talking right now, my brother, another correction, is not only 4 political parties which are parliamentary political parties. Check your facts right. Right now, 48 political parties are funded because these 48 political parties have elected members from the county level to the national level.
Gentlemen, I say
I'm really out of time.
Parliamentary political parties are not parties that have anyone elected. Parliamentary political parties are parties that have 5% representation of the assembly.
Right.
And those are only 4 political parties in the
Republic. On that clarification, gentlemen, allow me to take a short break. I'll begin because you brought up the whole matter of the funding, and I'm curious, as the political party, as Justice and Freedom Party, so what do you again do with, right, I'm being told that you can actually continue. Juma,
right,
as the party leader of Justice and Freedom Party, so what do you do with this funding?
Well, the funds are supposed to promote the party ideology. They are supposed to promote participation of persons with disability, the vulnerable groups. They are supposed to help the political parties to recruit members, because recruiting members in all the 47 counties within this country is not a walk in the park. It requires a proper financial muscle, and these are the issues that actually have limited the promotion or the visibility of other political parties. And again to the media. If the media, the way you've been giving me access and the other, if you could be giving other parties, Ruto, there could be a difference in governments difference from the Jubilee government. No wonder we had a presidential candidate. And similarly, had we interacted with the ideologies of Azimio, and we thought that all these ideologies, if we do not bring new narratives within the political discourse, a narrative that focuses us from just being third, or being a supermarket-based market where, as we're talking right now cheaper goods are coming here and our manufacturing industries are dying. Why? Because of the type of leadership we have. We had individuals who are agents of the East, others are agents of the West, and they don't mind being agents, they don't mind getting commission at the expense of their own industries closing down. These are the challenges we are having. Of having leaders who are not circumspect, having leaders who are not citizen-centered, having leaders who are not visionary. Actually, they're just looking at how quick can I get a campaign money, so that come next election, if China can give me money, I would rather kill my factories. If US can give me money, I would rather kill my factories. And these are the challenges we're going to have perennially. So as citizens, we must put our foot down and make the hard choices, and take the path that can will restore back our sovereignty and leave this country in a foundation that can benefit the next generation, not just next election.
Right. Mdali, apologies earlier. You can have that particular clarification, and because of time, because I think around 6 or 7 minutes to wrap up. Your last words, as the youth chair, the young people are looking at you. The base of political parties in the country, because many will assume that Jubilee Party in its headquarters there, but then how strong are political parties, mashinani, deep, in the grassroots level? How strong are political parties there? Do the youth right now understand the importance of as Stanley Nyiringita going to joining a political party if I live deep down in Kisii County?
First of all, just to start with the clarification about what a parliamentary political party is. By law, a parliamentary political party is a party in the National Assembly that has 5% of the seats in the National Assembly.
So 5% for the number, 5% is maybe about how many?
5% of 200, and how many are they in total? The number of MPs elected, 290. So 5% of that is what qualifies you to be a parliamentary political party. In the Senate, you need to have at least 10 senators for you to be considered a parliamentary political party. Even Jubilee Party in the Senate, we do not qualify to be a parliamentary political party at that level. Now, having said that, coming to the issue of representation and the political parties across the country, the first problem we have, especially with the young people, is that very few of them are actually members of political parties. And in as much as we continue to debate about the problems bedeviling our country, the reality of the matter is that we are going to solve very few of them if we do not take part in politics. Our young people today have been made to believe that politics is a dirty game, and therefore for you to look sane, you must be able to avoid it. You must be able to play in another league, and then you look like you know what you're doing with your life. And unfortunately, people involved in politics have also been perceived to be rogue. And I know my brother party leader here would agree with me that once you are a political party leader and you are a young person, there is a perception that comes with it. That you're told, even the corporate institutions want to, when you come to TV47 and you say, my brother here is also interested in being a journalist here. The fact that his party leader disqualifies him thoroughly because there is a lens through which he is looked at. We must be able to, first of all, as young people, be part of the political process for us to have any change achieved. Let us become members of political parties. We cannot be able to shout from the rooftops when we are not actual members. Being a member of a political party is not because you agree with the party leader. You must be able to take the process, go register, you should be recognized by the ORPP that you are a member of a political party. And then we, at the leadership of political parties, must also be able to involve these people in the processes of political party, in the party recruitment, in sensitization drives, instead of just using our members for the sake of numbers, for the sake of meeting the threshold of ORPP, and for the sake of just election. That we get to election, that is the time we remember that we have members. But when there is no election, no one wants to care about the membership. So it is double-fold. There is a responsibility that we have as political parties, which we must take. And so far, we are really trying to do that from Jubilee, and the responsibility of the citizens.
Briefly, because I think we have like 20 seconds to wrap up. Briefly, from where you sit on matters of devolution, how best should we move forward? Your last words, briefly.
Before devolution, let me just say that all of us are talking about the same thing. In fact, even as Justice disagrees with us, he's doing so he's agreeing with us using different words. Because he's referred to Article 91 of the Constitution, but everything that he's talking about actually goes against Article 91, which validates the issue around us limiting the number of political parties. I've checked from the US, there are only 5 political parties. Democratic, Republican, American Independent, Green Party, Peace and Freedom Party. Not even up to 6, you see?
Okay.
Now, you asked about the issue of why do political parties use funding? Up to yesterday, we were in a forum in Kajiado with the Registrar of Political Parties. And only 2 political parties, up to the last election, were able to enhance the spaces of special interest groups. ODM had 48 elected women out of 424 who applied. UDA had 87 out of 699. For persons with disabilities, Orange had 14, ODM had 14 out of 424 elected, and then UDA had 9. What does that tell us? Out of 90 registered political parties, it means they are not serving the interests of citizens. For devolution, national government needs to take onus and responsibility to support county governments to deliver on behalf of the people.
Right. Justice Juma Patilile, Justice and Freedom Party advice